Hey, it's Anthony here from LANDR, and in this video I'm going to show you how to chop samples in Ableton and use them in your music. Through the process, I'll be chopping samples in a couple of different ways, and I'm going to include the session I've been working with for download. So download it now and follow along. So what are chop samples? Chop samples are usually pre-recorded pieces of music that are chopped, manipulated, and altered and then reused in music. They're great for inspiration. You can really do anything out of them. You can create instruments out of different samples. You can create atmospheric sounds. The possibilities are endless. The most common types of samples are one-shots and loops. A one-shot is exactly what it sounds like. It's like one sound playing once and then decaying, so maybe just a single snare hit. Loops are samples that play over and over again in a loop. So you could pull it into a project and you could loop it using the loop function, and it would just go over and over again. Usually when we're chopping samples, we're chopping loops or pre-recorded pieces of music, and I'll be doing both in this video. Existing music can also be chopped as a sample, but you have to be careful not to infringe on any copyrighted material. Fortunately, there's sites where you can download samples, pay for them, and they're royalty free. You can use them in your music and then release your music worry free. So the first method I'll be using to chop a sample is with Ableton's Simpler plugin. You can find the plugin under Instruments, and it's just right there. You just drag it into a MIDI track. I'm going to create one just under my drums with Shift Command T. There's a MIDI track. You can just drag Simpler in, and then you can see it says drop sample here. So I'm going to look for a sample I can work with. I really want to create an instrument to complement this track so far. And I'll just play the track so you can hear it. I was thinking a guitar-like sample to kind of do maybe an arpeggiated melody or something like that. So I'm going to be using LANDR samples. And I'm just going to look for a guitar type samples, something where it has lots of transients which are short bursts of energy. It's going to make the sample easier to detect for Simpler to chop automatically. So transients, as I said, were short bursts of energy, and Ableton can detect those and then chop by the transient. And it can chop really well if you have something with a lot of transients. So I'm just going to go to Instruments, and then I'll go to Guitars. So another way you could get there would be Instrument or Guitars in Browse modes. So now we're here, and I'm just going to play some samples. Okay. I really like that. It's kind of like a harp, not really a guitar. It's got a really cool sound. So I'm going to grab this one. All right, so I've downloaded the sample into my samples folder, and all I have to do is drop it right into Simpler here. So here it is here, and I just drop it in. And now I can play it with my MIDI keyboard if I'd like. That's really low. That's what I love about Simpler. You can play it as a note or chord if you wanted to. You could make a really cool soundscape with that. So let's just hear the sample with my song. So there's the sample playing back, and you can hear it doesn't really sound right, and that's because it's not in the same key as my song. So to change that, all I have to do is go to Controls, and I can manipulate the key by using the transposition function. So my song is in the key of F sharp minor, and I know that because my 808 is playing a big F sharp right at this beginning here, and the sample is an A sharp minor, because it says it in the file name. So all I have to do is count up from A sharp to F sharp, and I can use my MIDI keyboard to do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just go up to 8, and then it should sound a bit better with my song. Nice. So it sounds really good. Just the timing is off, and we're going to fix that with slicing the sample. So to begin slicing this sample, all I have to do is press the slice button here, and you can see it already automatically detected transients and it sliced it automatically. So now I can play it on my MIDI keyboard and it's playing the different transients that it sliced. Right now the playback's on mono, so it's only playing one sound back at a time. If I put it to poly, I can play like chords with this thing and you can make really cool sounds and rhythms. So you can really do anything, really. If I lower the sensitivity fader here, it's going to detect less transients. So it'll only detect the most strongest transients in the loop. And then the more I increase that, the more transients it will detect. So remember, the transient is like a short burst of energy. I can zoom in and you can see it's, you can see it's lining up two transients in the wave file, especially like right here, there's a huge one. Another way you can slice is by beat. So now it's automatically slicing by beat of my project. So it's syncing up with my tempo. And here's the division of the beat. So this is set to quarter notes. So if I play just one sample, that's one quarter note in my song. Another way is by region. So this is basically by measure. It starts off with, so it's going to have 4 beats. Let's see if I can find it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can make the region bigger or smaller, which will subtract and add beats. And the next way is just manual. You can manually just add transients by double clicking. So if you have a really specific spot of the sample you want to chop, you can just put the slice in manually. I think for this song, I like beats because this harp sample is very rhythmic and it's going to maybe line up with my song really well. So I'll select beat, and then I'm just going to jam out on the push with the song playing. There's something there for sure, but it doesn't sound right. I'm just going to press the capture button and see what I got out of that. So the capture just puts in the MIDI you just improvised into the MIDI track. So it's like it's already recording. So let's just listen to see. Okay, so it's almost there. It's just not in time. And to fix that, all you have to do is click the warp button. So that's going to warp the sample to the clock of the song. And I'm hearing a click at the end of the sample, so I'm just going to fade these out and see if that... And I'll fade it in. There's a little bit of click on some of them as well. And then to get it even cleaner of a performance, I'm just going to quantize this I'm going to select all with Command A and then quantize it. I'm going to select quarter notes. Nice, I like that a lot. Cool. I want this continuous, I think, so I'm just going to duplicate this. Yeah. And then maybe I'll make a second one that's almost the same but a little bit different at the end and see what other samples I can put in. That's cool. Nice. So you can really make almost like a completely different melodic line than what the sample originally called for. And then I'm just going to copy that there. Nice, that's great. So I have my two there, so I'm just going to duplicate those throughout my song. I'll put this here, and I'm just pressing Command D and just chucking it in throughout my song, and then not using it all the time so there's some variety. Cool. And I'll just mix it in a little bit. So let's just listen to the before and after of what we ended up with. So we had a sample that sounded like this. And I was able to chop it and sync it up with my song with the slice and the warp mode and get something completely different. And I can even begin to even experiment even more if I wanted to. I could start putting in harmony between the two. That's cool. Let's do that. You can really get carried away, I think. I love it. So the next way I'm going to show you how to sample is using just audio samples in your arrangement view. So just creating an audio track with Command T, and then just dropping a sample in. It can be anything really. I have a string quartet that I want to work with, so I have it in my samples here. Let's just find it. And I can just drag it in to the audio track. And then it's going to play along with my song. Okay, so we have the same issue we had when we imported the last sample, is that they're not in the same key. So this is really important. I know that this string quartet's in G minor, and I know my song again is in F sharp minor, so I just have to transpose it down one semitone. So I'll just go here, 1, that's 3, okay, 1, perfect. And now I can begin to scan the sample for parts that I want to work with. So this looks a bit overwhelming. I'm just going to shrink the file on the timeline just to like one section because I don't want the sample to be that long. And then I'm going to loop it. Now I can start to look for an area in the music that I want to be in my song. So you can see it's going to show up in the arrangement view up here. That's kind of cool. So there's lots I can choose from. I was hoping for something a bit more legato and nice and like a nice melody sounding part. Nothing too crazy. Let's just keep going through the song. Okay. Yeah, like a single string player just playing really expressively. So I'm going to start there. I'm just going to turn the clip volume up a bit so I can see the waveform a bit better. So I found the piece of sample that I want to work with. I'm just going to right click the beginning of where it starts. So I just start here, and I'm going to right click and put set 111 here. And that's going to tell Ableton that that's the beginning of the sample I'm working with. It's just going to make things easier to chop and manipulate. Now we can double click and use warp markers to stretch the sample and get the phrasing we want throughout the song. So I have this first note, and I kind of want this to start on beat 2. So now you can see I'm just clicking a warp marker and dragging it into different areas of the beat and making my own phrasing of the violin. Now I think this should be a little bit later. And I'm just using my ear to do this. And then this should be on beat 2. So you can zoom in and just kind of try different things, see if it lines up. It's really fun to see what you can get when you're chopping like this. And then I want this to extend all the way. And I think it's only going to be 4 bars long. There's a bit of a chop there I think I'm missing. Maybe I'll bring that closer and get rid of this. And then I'll bring this a bit back. I think this has to be more on the beat. And then that's going to come all the way down because I want that sustain to happen for 4 beats. So the sample sounds really cool. It's just that last note that's not sounding great. And that's because it's kind of out of the key. It needs to be down a semitone, I believe. So I'm just going to split the track by just putting my locator where I want to split it. And it's going to be right here on the beat. I'm going to split it. And then I'll be able to just drag that down a semitone and see if it sounds a bit different. So let's listen to it in context. And then I believe that this note might work. And then it has to be on the beat. So I'm just going to get rid of this and put this here. Nice. Very cool. Okay, let's see how that sounds. So I'm just using my ears, just trying to get the phrasing right around my song. And I think I've got it. Let's listen to it in context and I'll just mix it in a little bit. That's awesome. So I'm happy with what I have. I'm going to consolidate it, which means gluing those back together. So it's 1. And now I can loop it. And it's just going to keep playing the same phrase over and over again. And now I can start to have a bit of fun with this newly chopped sample. Just to blend it in a bit, I'm going to chuck some reverb on the effects chain. So I'm just going to go here, go to audio effects, reverb. And you can really make it sound really sad and distant almost, I think, with the reverb. Let's listen to it in context with the mix. Yeah, I love it. Then I can duplicate it throughout my song. And then what I think will work is if I chuck it up an octave, if I layer it and throw it up an octave. So I'm just going to duplicate this track, just delete these ones, and then come to the last part. I'm going to put it up an octave, which is 12 semitones. And So it's important when you're really morphing a sample to use Complex or Complex Pro. It's going to keep and preserve the original quality of the sample while you manipulate it. And let's just listen to the difference between the two. That's Beats. And then Complex Pro. You can really hear a difference. Let's listen to it in context. Just bring it up a bit. And then I'll just duplicate it again, and I think I'm done. I hope this video helped you get started with sampling in Ableton. Head over to LANDR Samples at samples.landr.com, grab some sounds, chuck them in Ableton, and go for it. The possibilities are really endless, and it can be really inspiring to take some sounds, create your own, and commit to it and base some music off of them. I hope you liked this video. If you did, like and subscribe, hit the bell to get notified when we release new videos. Thanks again, and I hope to hear from you soon.